join me mid-session here on Brasenose 1. It's the start of November, it's freezing cold, and the session has already got off to a flyer. I come down yesterday, a little bit before Brad come down, and yeah, Bart's joined me this morning, and like I say, the session has already got off to an absolute flyer. 9 fish already, the biggest fish, 43 pounds and 8 ounces. Absolutely phenomenal carp, especially at this time of year. In this little video, I'm going to run through how to hopefully make your winter fishing a little bit more productive, and most of all, how to be comfortable when you're out fishing in not very nice conditions. So without further ado, I'm going to fire this rod out. Hopefully we can get a few more bites.
So as Tom mentioned, it's the start of November, and like this time of year, you know, the clocks have changed now, so the nights are drawing in early, and yeah, like the sort of ideal place for us is somewhere like on the Linear complex where, you know, you can proper bait and weight fish, so you can sort of get your camp set up, you can have a nice, you know, like we're plotted up real nice next to each other. We've got the rods out, and yeah, we're going to put some bait out, and we're just going to wait, see what happens, but more importantly, we're just going to kick back. We've got barbecue for later, probably have a couple of curries, or I don't know, something along the line through the session, just more about eating food than fishing. But yeah, just a typical nice session, so nice and comfy. If a few fish come along the way, then they come along. I'm sure they will. Like Linear is, you know, it's a very productive complex, and like we're on Brasenose 1, and you know, the fishing on here ain't to be sniffed at. I fish it a lot in like the British Championships in the semi-finals, and we always have such a mint weekends fishing. You know, you're catching a lot of 20-pounders, and if you get amongst a few fish, like you're certainly in for a 30-pounder. And now this time of year, I mean, it's frightening the amount of 30-pound fish that are in here anyway, let alone this time of year now. But I wouldn't like to guess how many are over 40 as well. There's certainly going to be like a large number of 40-pound fish, and they're going to be big this time of year. So if we can get our hands on one of them, like whilst fishing this session, that'd be brilliant. So yeah, just rods out, food, bit of fishing, and hopefully the chance for a decent fish will be absolutely brilliant.
So even though Brasenose 1 has got a high stock density, this time of year, more than ever, the fish are very, very localised. Now, when I arrived yesterday, the wind was plumb off my back. And yeah, you know what, I could have fished 120, 125 yards out right in the middle. The lads either side, they did that. They fished as far as they possibly could. The wind's turned to a slight crosswind today, and it is hindering their casting. So what I did yesterday, rather than, like I say, trying to be a hero, I clipped up at a distance that I know I can reach, regardless of whatever the weather's doing. 26 rod lengths, 104 yards. I know I can hit that in a crosswind, a headwind, a tailwind, whatever. I can get my rods there first time every time, and I can get bait over it, nice and accurate, hopefully without putting too many either side. But like I say, the fish this time of year, they are shoaled up nice and tight. So if the spot looks like it's going to go off the spot, I'll stop it. I don't want to be spreading bait left and right, and I'd rather it drop 30, 40 yards short of where I'm fishing, rather than dropping 6 to 8 foot either side of the spot that I'm fishing. So yeah, it's been a bit slow this morning, not had any bites this morning. Hopefully a little top up now the sun's up in the sky, it's a bit higher, a bit brighter, a bit warmer. Hopefully it revs a few fish up. But yeah, I'm going to fire a few of these out, and hopefully we can get the bobbins dancing.
So obviously, like, we've got 2 sets of rods out here. Now, quite an important thing, the swims are fairly close, but having 2 sets of rods like that, as soon as you get a bite, you want to know the fish is on there. So we're using drum string tight lines, nice heavy bobbin, bite alarm on full sensitivity, just so if you get a fish and it picks it up, you know the second that you got one. And not only that, it's quite a big lake, you get big winds, and with the undertow, your lines can be all over the place. So as soon as you feel the lead down, keep that line as tight as you possibly can, rod on the rest, bobbin straight on, really nice and tight. And another thing worth mentioning, because the swims are close, but the tree lines in between the pegs are overhanging the water and it's really deep, you know, you can't walk between the pegs. So obviously you don't want to be like taking anyone's lines out or them taking you out. So as soon as you get the bite, you can get down on it straight away, get the fish in nice and close with no dramas.
This time of year, more than ever, you're probably either going to be packing up in the rain, or if you're packing up early in the morning, packing away when everything's damp. It may only seem a small little thing, but there's nothing worse than when you go fishing the next time around, you put your hand in your holdall, you pull your head torch out, the strap on the head torch has got a bit damp, a little bit of mould growing on it, and it just makes everything a lot more uncomfortable. So coming into this winter, I've changed over all of my compartment bags inside of my holdall to these Aquos Camo EVA bags. 100% waterproof, literally they will not let a drop of water in. So first up, I just got the long pencil case type one. Inside here, I've got a freshly stocked PVA funnel web and plunger system, just in case you want to hook a little bag of maggots on or a little bag of pellets. And I got a few little spares, just things that you might forget to pack before you come, but you've always got them in here because they're the items that you use the most. And if you end up running out halfway through a session, you don't want to have to cut your trip short because you haven't got the right amount of stuff with you. So that's the first one I got. Second one, this one, quite an important one in the winter actually. This is my zig one. So it's got everything in here that I need to tie zigs. A couple of different breaking strains of line, my foam, aligners, and packs of hooks. That's everything in there that I need to tie a zig. Again, nice and compact in one bag. I can pick that straight up out of the holdall and I'm ready to zig fish. The little one, now I've got a couple of these. The first one is this one here, and in there it just houses some spare bobbins, spare backrest and a few spare hockey sticks. Again, things that you might want to chop and change throughout the session depending on conditions. And like I say, I've got two of those. The other one is something that I've done a fair bit of, is solid bag fishing. And there's nothing worse than when you tie a solid bag up only to look at the spool and realise that you haven't actually clipped it up. Because they're 100% waterproof, little dust in the pellets or powder on the bottom, put the solid bag inside, zip it round, obviously making sure you don't trap your leader in the zip. Your leader can come out of a tiny little gap there, zip it up, you can place it next to your distance sticks, wrap your bag up, and even if it's pouring hard with rain, wind the line back onto the spool, unzip the bag, take the PVA bag out, and it's good to go, and there's no water got into the bag. And finally, this is the larger size one, and this one has just got all my electronic items in it. So I've got my digital scales, my receiver, a head torch, and then a couple of spare packs of batteries, just because you know the radio might run out, the buzzers might run out. And again, everything can go inside there, zip it up, it's all nice and waterproof. I know nothing in there is going to rust, and it's going to last as long as it possibly can. So they're the 4 little bags I have. Put those into your holdall, tackle box, power pack on top, and you're good to go. And another thing as well, if they get dirty, you can simply dip them in the lake, wash them off, and they're as good as new. Again, might only be a little tip, but coming into this time of year, you want to make sure that everything you do is nice and comfortable, and the last thing you want to be doing is using wet, damp, soggy gear when really there's no need to.
So like this time of year, a go-to approach, whether it be chucking over your bait or just chucking, you know, like out into the middle of the lake, has got to be a solid bag. Now, a solid bag is great with pellets, but if you put some maggots in the bag as well, yeah, it's just like a really nice, attractive, like morsel of food. I like to use this as my single bait approach tactic as well as fishing over bait. You know, some people might like to opt for, like, say, like a fluoro pop-up, just chucked at showing fish. I've never really done that. I've always been, you know, always favoured chucking a solid bag, and especially like this time of year, a solid bag full of maggots, yeah, it's just a perfect presentation for a winter carp. Another bonus with the solid bag is because you can use it as like a roaming tactic. So like if you're fishing, just trying different areas of the lake, yeah, in your mind, you're not leaving bait in other areas of your swim or in other pegs. So if you want to move or try a different area, you know that it's not going to be like too detrimental to your peg when you're actually fishing. So it's just, you know, it's perfect for that sort of tactic. So I'm just going to run you through how I tie this solid bag up now. First things first, you need probably around 8 to 10 inches of 20-pound camo reflex. This is an uncoated braid, and the reason for that is that you want it to be really nice and supple. All I'm going to do with that is tie a figure of 8 loop in the end. Just bear in mind when you tie the loop that, well, this time of year I like to, you know, obviously using the maggots, and I like to stick a couple of maggots through the hair loop rather than use a boilie stop. So just bear that in mind. You want the loop just big enough to be able to squish 2 maggots side by side in the loop. Then you'll need a piece of hook silicone. This will just trap the braid on the back of the bend of the hook for when you tie your knotless knot. And then hook choice, this is a size 5. Wide gate beat, this is a barbed one. This is a perfect size for in the solid bag. This will just counterbalance my hook bait as well. So you feed your hook point through the silicone, get that round on the bend of the hook, and then just do a knotless knot with your braid, whip it round 4 or 5 times and then back through the eye of the hook, and then that give you the perfect knotless knot. And then I measure my hook length out around 4 inches or 100 mil, measure that on my tackle box, just so I get them all roughly the same. All I do then is I tie a bigger loop, you know, figure of 8 loop, slightly bigger. And the reason why I do this is because then, rather than tie the hook length to my swivel on my lead, I actually feed the loop through the swivel on the lead, and then I pass the hook back through the loop before I put my hook bait on. And once you've done this, then you're ready to put the hook bait on. Like in this instant, this time of year, I like a really bright hook bait, and this time I've just gone for a bright orange hook bait, 10 mil in size. Now, this is a pop-up, but it'll be sank with the weight of the hook and the maggots. So it will act like a wafter, but it's actually a 10 mil pop-up to start with. So once I've put my bait on, and I've pulled the loop right through the bait and stretched the loop out a little bit, and then gonna just put 2 maggots through the loop and then pull the bait back tight, you know, basically just using the maggots as the boilie stop. This is perfect, gives you, you know, just a couple of maggots. You haven't got to bother like flossing them on or using some like hook in the bait rig or anything like that. You can literally just pop 2 maggots in the loop and it's done. Gives you, you know, maggot hook bait as well as maggots in the bag. And then once I've done this and I've pulled the hook bait to trap the 2 maggots, I make sure then that I slide my hook silicone back round the bend a little bit to make sure it's in the correct position ready to go in the bag. So the next step now is to start tying the bag. You take the fast melt repeat loader. This is the small loading system, and that's the perfect size for a nice aerodynamic little bag. If you're fishing a bit closer in, then I'd say you could use the bigger sizes. It'd be perfect. You could put a lot more maggots in those bags as well, but for fishing like long distance or chucking it out into the middle of the lake, then just the small loader is absolutely fine. So opening up your repeat kit, your loading tool out of the bag, out of the pot, and then you want to put your locking collar on. By do that, you just literally screw the loading tool down and you slide the locking collar straight onto the loading tool. Then take your PVA bag and you want to open the bag up and slide the loading tool into the top of the bag and you want to slide the bag sort of a fair way up the loading tool to start with. You can always pull it off if you need to. And then once you've got that into position, slide the locking collar off of the loading tool, and then that will stretch the bag out, ready for you to drop your rig through the loading tool into the bag. All you need to do is drop your hook right to the bottom of the bag and get it positioned into the corner and have your hook point facing down. And once you've done that, what I like to do, because you're putting maggots in the bag and you don't want a maggot to actually foul the hook point inside the bag, all I do is pop the hook point out the side of the bag, which means that, you know, a maggot can't get caught on the end of the hook, potentially sort of preventing a bite. You know that if the hook point's out whilst you're faffing about loading the bag, that nothing can go wrong with that. The next step then is to drop the lead inside the loading tool a little bit, and then lock the lead core into the little groove at the top of the loading tool, ready to scoop up a few pellets, only a few, just to cover the hook bait in the bottom of the bag. And then once you've done that, you can then take the lead core and drop the rest of the rig into the bag. Then the next step is just to put a few maggots in the bag, sort of roughly so the bag's 2/3 full. And then once you've done that, try and nestle all the maggots down, lifting the lead core leader, just jiggling it about, lifting the lead up a little bit, compacting some maggots in there. All you need to do then is just pop a few more pellets in the top of the bag, just so you don't squash a maggot or pop a maggot when you're screwing the bag down and doing the lick and twist to complete the bag. So once you've done that, just twist it down really nice and tight, give the PVA a lick, and then slide, as you slide the loading tool down over the bag, give it a good squeeze, and then that'll stick the PVA to the bag, and then that's the bag complete. If you are chucking the bag out a fair way in the wind or over long distance, all I like to do is just tap the corners of the bags, give them a little lick and fold them back. This will just make the bag really nice and aerodynamic. There you go, that's my maggot solid bag rig. Perfect for this time of year and going further into the winter. Great for nicking a bite or chucking over the bait. It's certainly served me really well over the years and probably will continue to do so too.
Well, as is always the way this time of year, 1 minute the fish are on you, the next minute they're not, and unfortunately today it's been a bit of a quiet day. The weather is considerably different to yesterday. Yesterday was more overcast, raining, the pressure was a bit lower. The pressure has crept up slightly today. The wind is still in the same sort of direction, but it's noticeably colder. That's not getting the excuses in because there is a lot of fish in here. I'm just hoping, throughout the hours of darkness last night, I caught a fair few, so hopefully they're pretty residential and they come back tonight. This time of year, you've got a lot more hours of darkness than what you have daylight. And I just think that when your rods are out there and you can't see what's going on, you know, the rods are out, the bait's over the top, and there isn't really a lot else you can do. And with the light levels changing, you know, it's only recently that the clocks have changed. These next few hours, which would normally be light, is a good time. So I'm certainly not writing the night off. There's a lot of big fish in here, and you know, we have seen a few show in the last couple of hours, and the only way they get back that energy is through eating. So I suppose all there is left to do now is sit and wait, and for us, wrap up nice and warm and get a bit of dinner on the go ourselves.
Well, we had a freezing cold frost last night. No carp to report, but hey ho. There's a few fish showing, a couple of pegs up. So the chap up there, he's just packing up now. He's off early. So what I'm going to do is have this coffee. Yeah, then we'll get the gear up there and see if we can actually get on a few fish. But there's a couple of fish showing, so it looks good. But like we said yesterday, you know, getting on them in the winter is probably the most important thing. And at the minute, we're just not on them. So yeah, we'll get up there, see if we can get a bite. Like, one of the key things to fishing at this time of year is just staying comfortable and warm. It makes life so much easier if you just, you know, you're not cold, you ain't got cold feet, you've not got cold hands. I fish quite a lot through the winter months, and it's just something that I've always done. Like, the more comfortable you are, the better you're fishing, because if you're not comfy, you tend to just curl up in the bag and like feel like your life's going to end. One of the main things for me is having a decent bed. I switch over from, like I say, a Duralite bed to the actual flatliner with a 5-season bag, and it's like sleeping in an oven. You know, you know, getting out of bed to say deal with a fish or a rechuck or anything like that, you know that you're just always warm. You're warm getting out of bed, and you know that you're going to be snugly getting back into bed, so it doesn't matter if you get cold for a little bit. Like, make sure your clothing is up to scratch, and like, make sure that you know, you bring your waterproofs, you bring all your sort of thermals, and it's no bother just to get up in the morning, put the kettle on, put my thermals on, watch the water for those fish. Other than that, you're dealing with like 14, 15 hours of darkness, and you have got to make sure that you're comfy all the time. You've got all the stuff to not have that there. So why put yourself in that position? Just have all those little comfies. You know, it doesn't mean taking loads of extra gear or anything. It just means that you can fish the whole time. Like, you can just concentrate on your fishing. You're not, you know, you're not worried about sort of how cold you are all the time, or how much bother, or if you're getting wet, or, you know, that sort of thing. I think it's the key to winter fishing. One thing's worth mentioning about using a brolly is that I've got like the Ultra 60 brolly, and with that I've put the inner skin in, and that just stops any condensation. You know, when you're getting a hard frost on the back of your brolly, and when that starts defrosting, you don't want any water, sort of like any drips dripping on your bed, or like the edge of your bed touching the edge of the brolly. So having that skin, it just creates that nice little barrier to stop any damp or anything like that, and, you know, just protect you a little bit more. I bring 2 pairs of shoes, you know, 2 pairs of boots with me. I've got my mid boots, which are ideal for sort of like slipping in and out of really quickly. You can fold the tongue down on them and leave them sort of open, so when you get a bite you can just pop into them, get to the rod. You know, they're ideal for when you're actually fishing. Sometimes if you've got to barrow a long way to your swim or something, where you've got so many anglers on the bank nowadays that it can get really muddy, then sometimes, you know, just pop a pair of wellies on. You've got to obviously suit your footwear according to the situation. Like if the swims are all lovely and gravelly, then that's fine, you can just put your boots on, you know, but sometimes you either need a pair of wellies and that. And I have had it last year on the syndicate where we actually had to have a pair of waders to get to a peg, but you know, just having a nice pair of boots, you can't beat just keeping your feet nice and warm. Just as we're about to call it a day, Brad was going to do the old off. We've only gone and got a bite. Just seen a couple of fish. They were showing out a bit further, and then they sort of drifted in just as the wind swung round, just short down here. So just literally wrapped up roughly how far I thought they were. 3 spods and a rig over the top. Yeah, and it's been out there probably about an hour. And we got a bite. Forgotten what it was like for the old bobbin to go. Yeah, nice, very nice. Yeah, one thing that's always remained the same is that the way that me and Tom fish is, you know, we're always super confident in actually how we fish. So we're never second guessing the bait we're using or the rigs we're using. So all you've got to worry about is your either location or, you know, how far out you need to be presenting your bait and your rigs. You shouldn't be too far away now. Come and slip the net under this thing, Thomas.
You did?
Yes. That'll do. Yeah, boy. So obviously I mentioned about, you know, staying comfortable, and we've got probably an hour and a half of light left. Now the last thing I want to be doing right now is getting wet. You know, we've just caught this fish. I've just slipped my salopettes on. I'm going to put my jacket on. You know, I've taken my nice fleece off, because if I get the sleeves on that all soaking wet, it's not going to be very nice for the night time. So I'm just going to put this little lightweight waterproof jacket on, and that way when I'm holding the fish, I ain't going to get my jumper wet, I ain't get my fleece wet. You know, I'm just going to, if this will dry out super quick anyway, but if I've got to hold the fish, it's only my sleeve's going to get wet, and yeah, you know, I'm not having to go then change clothes or whatever. So yeah, on that note, we'll get the fish out and have a quick look. Look at those 2 scales. Right, there you go. Nice one, £27. But yeah, it just goes to show that the tactics that we use this time of year, they are the right tactics to use. However, like any fishing, no matter what tactic you use, you've got to be in the right place. You know, Tom caught some lovely fish just before I arrived, up to sort of low 40 pound. I think, well, 43 pound was his biggest. Absolutely colossal fish, but they moved. And we had to change our fishing to suit, and it wasn't that we had to change our tactics, so that we had to change where we were actually fishing. So we moved further up the bank, and just goes to show that, you know, you've got to make sure that you're fishing in the right place. But the tactics that we do use for this time of year, they're always, you know, they're solid, good tactics that will always put your fish on the bank, providing you're fishing in the right area. I hope you can take something, you know, from this little video and put into your own winter fishing and catch yourself some of these. Oh, there you go. It's just winter fishing down to a T. As you know, even though we go as much as sort of like what we do, and you sort of not doubt yourself, but like when you're not catching, you put yourself under scrutiny, like, oh, because you know the fish are in here, so like you feel like you should be catching. And we've just weighed and photographed that fish, thinking that that's going to be it pretty much. That was our, you know, that was our chance, that was our bite, and that was our fish for the camera. And literally, yeah, we were sort of just about to wrap it up almost, and I thought, oh, I'll just flip the rig back out, you know, why not? Flip the bobbin on, walk back to the bivvy, literally sat there just sorting another rig out, a spare rig, and it's gone. It's probably been in the water 5 minutes. Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's just the perfect venue for this sort of fishing. Get in there. Yeah, he's got a bit of a ghosty in him. Nice. Perfect. Number 2. There you go, that's the second one. In probably 20 minutes, another 20-pounder. But yeah, perfect. This will probably be the last fish, I'd imagine, for this little short video. But you know, well, me and Tom hope you can take something from this, put into your own winter fishing, and get yourself a couple of fish whilst you're out on the bank. But more importantly, just make sure you enjoy it.